Ascended Master Instruction, Discourse 2, July 7, 1932. Saint Germain. Invocation. Thou mighty I Am Presence from the heart of the great central sun, we face thy sunrise. The Discourse. Daily exercise. You may do this at any time during the 24 hours. Stand erect, face the east, and say mentally or aloud. Be guided by your own feelings as to whether you should say it aloud or not, but let it be firm. Mighty God in me, I face thy eternal sunrise, and I receive thy mighty radiance and activity visibly manifest in my experience now. The use of this sets into motion certain powerful principles. Warning. If students use this, they should analyze themselves first and see if they are really sincere in their determination to have and serve the light unconditionally. If they be sincere, let them stand to the light and then go forth. Awake. Stand to the light and serve only the one presence of right and justice. Know that God, the mighty I Am Presence in you, governs and controls all unfoldment in perfect divine order. As the sea holds all created life in its embrace, which is designed for its sphere, so the air holds within its embrace those created forms of life belonging to it. These are two links ever active between the human and the divine, or the physical and the white fire body. We may call upon these forms of life to give us the best of their element. Man is the only creator of inharmony. The elements and their inhabitants are always harmonious in themselves, and it is only when one gets out of one's element that inharmony is created. But the inharmony is not of the element itself. The human element, or outer sphere of mankind, is the only element in creation that deliberately creates inharmony and consciously misuses the energy of the God sustaining it. This is the only sphere in the universe where those who function within it have taken command and declared themselves independent of God. I mean by this those who are refusing to acknowledge the active presence of God in their lives. No principle or activity can be blamed for the misuse mankind makes of it. All through the ages, humanity has tried to place upon God the responsibility for its destructive activities. Hence, the ruse of manufacturing gods who could be either angry or joyous, according to mankind's whim. I assure you from my own observation that those great ones, far greater than I, through aeons of investigation, have indisputable proof that there is but one God, the life, wisdom, and energy of all creation. Therefore, the energy of God cannot be blamed for the inharmony created when someone misuses it. Neither can the principle of banking be blamed because of dishonest bankers. Neither can the activity or principle of giving out information by the press be blamed because of malicious reporters or dishonest editors. I assure you that the day is not far distant when these principles of activity will be used in their highest constructive power. The constructive educational moving picture will also be used as the quickest, easiest, and most certain way of educating the outer perception. Too long has mankind usurped and misused the energy of good, which is God. The inner quickening by the cosmic radiation through the mighty arisen messengers of God into the heart of each individual is rapidly drawing the human desire into the divine. As is the case in all seeming struggles between two forces, so in the conditions of today, they are but the old conditions being repeated. and out of it all will come for the first time on earth a permanently established condition and right attitude of mind in the outer activity of humanity. I want so much to have each one of the students keep before them the fact that they alone are the governor of their life and its activity, and are commanded to choose what they wish to manifest in their life, always remembering that they are not to stop and worry about this or that individualization. They are to fix their vision, which is God's inner activity, on the goal and hold it there with a firm, joyous determination to reach it. No advice to others. Knowing this, there is no one who should attempt to advise another. The God in each is the only one who knows what is best for each individual. Those who are experiencing discordant activity should go where they can be absolutely quiet and uninterrupted. Then, to the best of their ability, enter into the great silence, and as they become quiet, say, "Mighty I Am Presence, I demand to know the right attitude and activity that I should take in adjusting and solving this problem." If the answer does not come at once, each day enter into the silence again and continue to demand that the divine answer come forth. Also demand to be shown, through the inner vision, every detail which should be carried out. Then all of a sudden, possibly when most unexpected, will come forth into the outer consciousness the full, unquestionable solution to the problem or situation. Running away. As one may not at any time run away from anything, this will make clear to him the complete situation and reveal whether he is being held by the hypnotic influence or whether he is fulfilling a just obligation. If I were to unleash my love for my students and attempt to advise them, I might be interfering with opportunity of immense value to them. Because I might know a thing does not permit me to take away from the student valuable opportunity. No one should feel distressed or lose hope because of outer conditions, when a few moments' contemplation can but reveal the fact that there is only one power, energy or activity to use, or that is being used, which is God. When one depends upon and demands of this Supreme Presence the right solution of any problem or situation, it will be solved or adjusted with the most wonderful divine activity. The divine solution will far transcend anything the outer mind could conceive of, even if it had the power of accomplishment within itself. Knowing that the outer mind or consciousness is a mighty vehicle through which the tremendous energy of God can be consciously directed, then we know that we have every moment, all about us, the most powerful presence for protection and direction, and the supreme solver and adjuster of every condition that opportunity brings before us. It would save so much distress to the individual if on the first intimation of any intruding discord, he or she would leap, as it were, into the heart of this mighty presence and say, "Seemingly the outer has made a mistake. I call on thy law of forgiveness. See that this is adjusted quickly and completely." Take a firm grip on the inner presence to govern every inharmony and to remove any wrong condition permanently. The highest and quickest action is always to make the demand to the great inner presence. God's energy always acts according to the consciousness we have of it. Opportunity is a very poor master. It is you who must always govern it. Use opportunity, but never let it use you. The assistance of the masters. The great ones may and do give assistance at all times, whether the students know it or not. One of the greatest activities of the ascended beings which they perform for the students is to give courage, strength, and assurance until such a time as they make a strong enough contact with their own inner presence to fully and clearly lose its mighty wisdom and activity into the outer self. The result of this radiation is that the students build permanent strength of character, and it saves them endless repetition and recreation of imperfection. In the past, down through the centuries, the call to the mighty I Am Presence within the individual has been but intermittent. Now the work before each one is to make the contact with the God within and hold it. The idea is not to ease up as soon as a problem is solved and think that no further effort is required, but to keep calling to this mighty inner presence and recognizing and accepting it going before to see that these foolish human problems are consumed at their first intimation. In this way, the Divine Self keeps you free from the outer disturbing or binding conditions. Experience is but opportunity, and is one of the most powerful friends the outer self has, for it gives the outer a chance to bring forth the divine character of life, which knows no imperfection. Allow me to say again, Mighty I Am Presence, reveal to me your true solution of this situation in which I seem to be concerned. Come forth in your wisdom and strength and solve this in divine order without another moment's delay. I recognize that you do not need time, place, nor space, but that your all-powerful activity is now. I accept this fact. Explanation of cosmic karma. I wish to put before the students another very vital and important thing, which concerns human creation. The individual can call on the law of forgiveness and say to the I Am Presence, dissipate and consume this wrong creation. This throws it back to the cosmic law for adjustment, wherein it is adjusted outside of the individual karmic activity. There are a great many individuals to whom this idea of truth would give immense relief and great freedom in a very short time. I cannot stress too strongly how the individual, being the only creator of inharmony, can, by the conscious application of the law of forgiveness, remove forever from his or her individual activity a great deal that would be very distressing. The old idea of karma, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, has not been correctly understood, except by a few. The majority have thought that karma must be balanced individual to individual. In some cases this is imperative, but there is so much that does not have to be balanced in that way when the correct idea of it is understood. One of the unfortunate things when the idea of karma was advanced was the above mistake. It caused individuals to consciously bind themselves to each other for adjustment. Taking into consideration that each individual has free will, you can see how this individual to individual balancing might become an endless thing. If one individual be not in a mood to cooperate in the adjustment of a condition, how then could the activity ever be ended? There must be, and is, a wiser means of help to do it. If the above material is carefully contemplated by the students, they will find greater relief and peace from realizing that they have this wise presence upon which they may call in all conditions. Benediction. We give praise and thanks that shortly thy messengers will fill every office in this land, and that the reign of God is now manifest on earth. Ascended Master Instruction, Discourse 3, July 11th, 1932. Saint Germain. Invocation. Thou mightiest of the mighty, thou mighty God, we face thy sunrise. These thy children face the sunrise of the soul and receive thy all-sustaining power, thy courage, thy wisdom, and thy illumining presence. Thou mightiest of all energy, we accept thy presence. Thou all-powerful, active presence, animating our minds and forms, thou mighty intelligence, we accept thy all-powerful activity, directing every movement of the outer form, holding it close in thy mighty embrace. The Discourse. God's certain assurance. In every activity of life, there must be something to which the consciousness can be anchored, or which can stabilize it. In the outer mind, there are principles and formulas that it may use in coming to a definite conclusion. For instance, by following the principles of mathematics, we come to certain results. When a formula is worked out, you produce certain results, no question about it. How much more important is it then to get the attention of the individual fixed upon that indwelling presence with the same assurance? You must know that the principle of life in you and enfolding you is far greater than the outer things which you have experienced for long centuries and have unknowingly clung to. May I remind you of what I gave on July 7th. Do the following any time during the waking hours. Stand, face the east, and say verbally or mentally, but let it be firm. Mighty God in me, I face thy eternal sunrise, and I receive its mighty radiance and activity, visibly manifest in my experience. Follow your feeling as to whether you say it verbally or mentally each time. You will find that this produces certain results, the nature of which I may not speak of, in order that you may receive the full benefit. If students use this, they should first analyze themselves and see if they are sincere in their stand to the light. If they are sincere, let them stand to the light and then go forth. The principle of God, which is your active consciousness, is always enfolding the outer form. It is the mightiest of principles that the outer self may be aware of and cling to. By doing this, you can have the same certain definite results, with the same great assurance of success that you receive in the use of other principles or formulas in mathematics or chemistry. The Master Presence in you is the mightiest of chemists and the greatest of all principles or formulas. Ascended Master Instruction, Discourse 4, July 14th, 1932. Saint Germain. Invocation. God, thou central source of all activity, wisdom and power, we demand judgment now, that those of thy children looking to thee may find thy radiance enfolding and governing their minds, bodies, homes, and every activity. We demand thy judgment be now, and that every heart that looks to thee may find itself enfolded in thy unconquerable radiance. Shed forth such power that nothing may touch the world of these individuals but thy perfect activity. For we recognize that out of the fullness of thy presence comes the perfect manifestation, the visible presence of all things, and so it is decreed. The Discourse. Today is an opportunity to prove the atmosphere of God. The day was very hot. Concentrate the attention on the region of the pineal gland, knowing that the attention focused there will cause to take place the balancing activity of all the centers, drawing and giving all power to the head center. From this center, the power of speech, which is but thought representation, will reflect back to the vocal center. During this time of the contemplation, or conscious direction of the attention to the highest center, Be aware of the even, balanced, rhythmic breath. I do not mean to give it special attention, but breathe a few times consciously, and then just be conscious that you are breathing the rhythmic breath. Breathe in on a count of 8. Hold for 8 counts. Breathe out on 8 and hold 8. Then repeat. After doing this a few times, you will get the rhythm near enough. The activity of this consciousness responds to the demand. The great God principle is above and enfolding the form because of the anchorage of God within the heart. The 7 centers are the points of anchorage of the individualization of God in the physical form. The pineal gland is the point of anchorage and radiation of the great central sun. When we realize this, we have come to the point where we do not consider any of the lower centers. Keep asking the God within what the correct activity is to use at a specific time. Each must depend on the direction he receives from the God within himself. All instruction is but worded attention upon certain things, and the student should learn from the words instead of the presence of the one giving it. The radiation will come through the words themselves. The words are but vehicles of conveyance of the presence. The feeling and thought will become just as accurate as the spoken word, as you depend more and more on the presence of God. It is necessary to use the consuming flame at least once a day. It is especially necessary among the students because some unknowingly open themselves to discordant things due to mass pressure. In the use of the rays, try to feel with intensity the mighty presence of God there, operating in whatever color you use. Very important, divine love. Keep the attention on the fact that love is the controlling power in all conditions, always knowing it is divine love. This qualifies whatever human love is there and raises it in harmony with divine love. Know always that in any demand, God is the sustaining power. You must keep aware of this fact in the use of all law. Remember that in all conscious use of the law, you are at all times the determiner of the qualities you wish manifest and maintained. No 2 individuals are affected exactly alike. One has an irritation of mind, another of body, another anxiety, another impaired health. The constant consciousness that God is my perfect health, wealth, and is self-sustained will take one into the full visible manifestation of these conditions. No, God in me is the keeper of my treasure house. Then I know God produces in my visible use great abundance, money as fast as I can require its use, and that it is never late, and that all my seeming obligations are taken care of on time. The joyous indifference of youth is really letting go, and with love prevailing, it is the most potent power for manifestation. To Mrs. G. W. Ballard. Never let down your bars of protection to anyone. It is wise for all to use the consciousness that God's activity is in this home and all about it, and there is only God acting. In thinking of the neighbors, know that God governs their every activity in regard to this home. Take a thing in the beginning, and with intensity reverse the negative action in thought and feeling concerning it. The seemingly deeper acceptance of the negative instead of a positive condition in the human consciousness is a mental gravity pull and is due to the density of the physical substance of the body. A quick, forceful statement. No, you get out of here. God Almighty is in control. This is true up to a certain point of illumination. While the inner presence always stands ready to act, the consciousness of invitation within the student's outer mind seems to be imperative. The inner presence does not intrude itself. It must be invited. The nature of the outer consciousness is to swing from one extreme to the other. The eternal balance is the middle way, and the desire to move in that activity draws and holds you there. The desire to walk the middle way draws you and holds you in it. The deeper the recognition and living in the God presence, the quicker will the God power act. Electronic activity. Wherever there is force, there is always some point of electronic activity, and from the higher standpoint it is very noticeable. The force released by the World War is still standing in the Earth's atmosphere, and is and will be redirected and used constructively. The electrons in our atmosphere are the emanation from the great central sun. The white fire body of the mighty I Am Presence and its natural element qualify the electronic activity, the same as each element in itself qualifies the electronic activity. The electron is a universal element that is the Spirit of God. Therefore, each element applying or using the electron qualifies it according to the element's own sphere of activity. In the condensation at a former time, one on Atlantis and the other in the buried cities of the Amazon, one was a consuming activity and the other was a life-giving activity. All-consuming is but a reordering of the balancing of the atomic activity. The electronic activity is always permanently balanced within itself. All discord is but a loss of balance of a particular element or atom. It is only when the electron becomes clothed in equality that discord is possible. The first activity of the atomic structure is the requirement of something to qualify it, or a need for equality. Otherwise, it too would remain forever perfect, and no other quality could be imposed upon it. Question: why does air in motion seem cooler than still air? Saint Germain: because the vibratory action is raised. The mantle of invisibility can be thrown around one instantly, but the students should establish it permanently and consciously by the practice of visualizing the mantle around them. We are consciously qualifying this electronic energy or activity every moment. Instinct is a lower form of intuition. There is only one presence and power acting everywhere, so really there are only different grades of consciousness and activity. Words are very lame to carry a meaning that is a feeling. The Cross of Christ currents. Recently there have been placed divine currents in North America in the shape of a cross, or in other words, in the shape of a sword. For in this case the cross of Christ is the sword of currents. The crossbar comes just south of the Canadian border, the hilt going up into Canada, and the point reaches south, almost to the lower part of Florida. Chicago comes at the strong part of the blade, just below the hilt. These are currents that have been placed through the earth by mighty messengers of God. There will come a time when this sword and another will cross, and peace and prosperity will be in America. Where the two swords come together, the crossing will be almost over Chicago. These currents are placed above and within the earth itself. They penetrate about 100 feet below the surface of the earth and about 200 feet above. This is why the surface structure of the earth will change, and the very ground human beings walk on will be the sword of Christ. In nature's formation of silver, some of it is dense, and some of it is frosted and not dense. So it is with the earth. As the Christ force is liberated, the earth itself will become much less dense. The atmosphere of the earth will become the balance between cold and hot, or semi-tropical, and the moisture will be evenly distributed. In the new Christ activity that is taking place, certain dispensations are given, but to what extent they will be given has not yet been shown. There are times and points of activity where dispensations have been given that have advanced civilizations hundreds of years. Miscellaneous Affirmations. I am God's child, and I can do everything God wants me to do, and I do it now. I clothe every atom of my world this day with infinite love and wisdom. This home is the heart of divine love's operation. My body is the heart of divine love's operation. My mind is the heart of divine love's operation. My world is the heart of divine love's operation. I am the divine plan of the light in perfect physical operation, now and forever. Be as faithful as you can to healing physical distress, but keep your inner eye on the healing of the wounds of hate. God within you is alive. Do not allow him to be silenced by thought forms of your sense perceptions or fears. Always remember that God and his manifestation are one. Everything grows by use. All things move in cycles. When the cosmic hour strikes, the whole combined force of the ascended host can be used to accomplish a definite purpose. There are a great many things in which they may not interfere between those periods. Otherwise humanity would not be where they are today. When individuals look to us, we may give assistance without limit according to their readiness to demand. But in the cosmic cyclic action, we may not interfere. The night before any important action, or before class, always go into the secret heart of God's great love. Mankind and students do not prepare the way ahead. When one wakes in the night, one sometimes returns to the body to anchor in the outer consciousness something that is needed there, or that is to be called forth when a future need arises. When we come to a certain point of achievement in the prevailing activity, we sometimes make contact with wisdom gained in previous forgotten experiences, and if there is a necessity, we call that wisdom forth and use it. In most instances, it is done unknown to the outer consciousness. If we require knowledge that we have been conversant with in previous forgotten experience, it is many times easier to recall that knowledge than to reach into the central source and bring it forth from the uncreated. The great law is not stingy, but it is conservative. It does not permit any unnecessary use of itself. The Divine Record. Within the divine record of every individual, there is registered all constructive experience. Therefore, when a necessity requires it, and the wisdom is there to be used, naturally that is the first place to draw from. For instance, if you had a book giving certain formulas of activity, you would not go to another individual who had the same kind of book, but you would look into your own book and save the time and energy. If mankind had not forgotten the wisdom and force stored within their consciousness, they would much more readily call upon that which is already at hand. In all the universe there is no wasted energy, except in the outer activity of mankind. It is not that the universe can be in any way depleted, but in order that the student may be taught the conservative use of that mighty energy. As the student goes deeper and deeper into this great wisdom, this will become more and more apparent. The smell of sulfur. Mrs. Ballard asked why the smell of sulfur was so strong in the night when there seemed to be no physical cause for it. It is a cosmic process now taking place, and we direct certain force while you are out of the body, in the assistance of the cosmic activity. The force released by cosmic activity through volcanic activity is a force that can be consciously directed. Those who are qualified for this particular activity while yet retaining their physical bodies are many times instructed how to use this force when out of the body during sleep, especially when a focus of it is required. The outer sense of odor is the conscious memory of the activity which has already taken place at the inner levels. One is likely to smell the odor of wood, sulfur, coal, or incense. If the memory is of sulfur or wood, it is proof that the direct activity of the highest force within the earth was specifically required. Raising the vibratory action. Do not let the outer senses form a habit or get the consciousness of anything except that all raising sensation comes in a perfect, harmonious, natural way. Release a person after treatment into the wisdom and activity of God, knowing that it is directing the controlling of the outer mind. When individuals are not aware of how to raise the body, it is sometimes much better to let them get out of the ruined temple and be free to go on. For the groups to use for universal service. The mighty power of divine love and justice is now all-powerfully operating in the minds and outer activity of every one of God's children in Chicago, New York, America, India, and China. America will again attain the mighty focus or spiritual power that she once had. This instruction comes from the ascended light, and they prefer that no individuality be considered. Let each one meditate within himself, and then decide upon the particular ascended master to whom he wishes to direct his attention, and keep this a secret within his own heart. The highest of attainment is always to look to the God within, and if you need help, assistance of any kind, call to one of the arisen host.